Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the United States Chess Championship. It's round number 8 of 13, and we have just crossed the halfway point, and we have got a couple of dark horses rising to potential championship level spots. And as always, we will go through all of the most interesting games from both sides of the tournament. We will check in on Hans Niemann, see how he's doing as well. Apologies for the tank top attire. I came back from boxing, had some dinner, watched the show with the wife, and I just haven't cleaned up yet. But you know what I'm saying? You know, we practicing for some chess boxing. I look pretty good. Just got myself open over here. All right, anyway, I got excited. Yeah, I post some boxing clips sometimes on my Twitter channel, Twitter account, Twitter, whatever, if you want to check it out. If not, then just enjoy today's recap. First game that I have for you. All right, first three are going to be from the women's side. We have Jennifer Yu versus Rochelle Wu. This game was a wild one. It began with an A6, a Shebanenko, or apparently a Chameleon Slav. I don't know who named this, but I always knew this as the Shebanenko Slav. Black plays A6 in order to play B5, and so white plays C5. White has other options, but like since black is going to be playing B5 very soon, white just sort of shuts that down and then develops. And yeah, this is really goofy, like if you've never seen this before, but basically you just remove the bishop. Knight goes back to F6, and black is essentially offering a draw here, which I don't know if it would have been accepted. But white plays b4. So white's like, I got more space. I'm going to attack. Black plays g6 and bishop g7 and castle, which all makes sense, just going back to finishing your development here. And what black is going to do in this game is try to potentially play the move e5, which is why white plays the move bishop back to f4. And now the move a5 is very much a possibility. These are the two pawn breaks in the position that matter the most. The move b6 is also very interesting. White tries to play b5 here. Well, no, it doesn't try. I mean, white literally is playing the move b5. And because white is a couple of moves away from developing fully, black plays the move knight e4, which is a good move. So just so you understand, like take, and then queen e4 looks like a free pawn. It's not, because there's all sorts of nasty tactics. Knight takes c5, immediately wins back one of the pawns, and black very quickly will finish development and just swarm the white position. So you cannot do that. In general, I would not recommend opening the position before you've fully gotten yourself developed. And in this game, it was black who decided to trade and try to play for f6, e5, but black could have played more powerfully. Like black had knight c5 here, for example. Knight e4, and then knight e4, and something like queen c6. Black could have gone for a position that looks like this. Black decided that they didn't like this position, but it's actually a very decent position. Rather than allowing white to kind of consolidate and go like this. I mean, black has a very clear idea here to play e5, but white plays rook d1 and allows e5, and is sort of like, I'm not afraid. My next two moves are bishop e2 and castle, after which I will be completely safe. But then black does this. Now the white king does not have to leave anymore, all right? White no longer has to just evacuate. Like if black was going to open up the position a couple of moves ago, something like ed, then obviously this would have been a bit of concern, right? Which is probably why white would have taken with the knight, by the way. But just, you know, showing you that that's kind of the situation. Now, white has a very simple plan here, okay? Bishop e2 castle. I've shown this plan already. Instead of that, Jennifer Yu plays the move h4, because like I already said multiple times in the earlier recaps, when she plays chess, she comes to scrap. That's just the best way I can describe it. Black plays the move h6, bishop e2, rook f7. Now white, once again, has an option to castle. But why would you castle if you've already played h4? Because, you know, give it a couple of moves and, you know, suddenly you're actually the one being attacked on this side of the board. White is still okay. White is not losing, but just goes to show you it's a pretty dangerous position. So white now plays rook b1 and then puts the rook on b6. Yeah, that looks quite good. And here, black does something surprising. So rook b6 attacks the pawn. Black can defend the pawn like this. Black can defend the pawn like this. Black could also defend the pawn. It's not as good, but with bishop to b7, you see it's bad because knight b3, knight a5. And black can also defend with bishop d7, which the engine still thinks is better for white, but it's possible to defend. Instead of all of that, Rochelle just gives away the pawn. Just gives the pawn away. Now, what white should have done here is played h5 first. Jennifer should have just immediately poked a hole here and then done it like this. This looks very scary, but apparently you can back up and be all right. She decides to take on c6. And now black immediately gets to play f4. This is a very scary position. We attack the queen first. It moves. Now we have a big exchange. And when the dust settles, wow, how many moves in a row with that of captures? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. White is winning. Where did it all go wrong? Well, bishop f4 was fine. But here, what black should have done was played bishop takes d4. And the point is that if you take the bishop, now taking on f4 is a totally different story because the knight sort of survives. Black had a couple of options to be a little bit more accurate than she was in the game, and she decided to play knight f4 instead of bishop d4. And this was the wrong set of simplifying because now she's just much worse. She's much worse because white is up a pawn, but more than anything else, these pawns are just simply too strong, and the attack can still kind of happen to this king. And that's sort of what Jennifer ends up doing. She consolidates and she goes for g6. She removes the light squared bishop from the board. She chops it down, actually in kind of a savage way. The move rook b1 check looks possible, but the king just goes here and you can take, but you're too slow. I'm getting to you first. Like if here, rook d7, and even queen g6. Queen g6 isn't even faster mate. Rook d7 is mate in 12. As black sacrifices all their pieces, queen g6 is mate in 3. And in the game, well, that's exactly what kind of goes down. Jennifer walks her pawn up the board. Queen g7 is right there. And the game ends after rook to d8. And black resigned. Did you notice something interesting about this game? When's the last time you saw a game where somebody did not move a king? Serious question. When's the last time you saw like a classical chess game by two like strong title players where the king did not move after 30 moves? I don't know. Absolutely fascinating. Very interesting game. So Jennifer Yu maintains her position at the top of the rankings. The next game that I have for you is by Nazi Paikidze and Alice Lee. It's Alice's birthday. So we'll see if she can get a win. We'll see if her birthday can be spoiled. So something funny happens in this game. They play a Vienna. Now here, white is obviously not a proud owner of the e4 New York style available at www.chessly.com with the move f4, which is fine. Instead of that, white plays a very offbeat way, which is basically a Scandinavian defense, but reversed. Okay, so like a Scandinavian would begin with e4, d5, ed here, and then, you know, queen e6. But this is basically white playing a Scandinavian defense reversed, but putting the queen here. Now the players rush to castle, and as you can see from the early opening, white is playing in a very aggressive way, even gambiting a center pawn to get some sort of strong initiative and kick black out, okay? So white is down a pawn, 6 to 7, you know, there's like knight f3, h4, knight g5, and so on. So here, h4, and white is going to go on a big attack. What is Alice going to do? Just play moves. Queen f6, right? I mean, just, all right, well, how are you going to get to me? Knight g5? And then I'm going to go here, right? So here, white actually plays queen g5 with the interesting idea to open up the h-file this way. And now a very nice rerouting idea here by white. Sometimes to take a couple of steps forward, you got to take a step back first. Knight drops back to d2 with the intention to play knight to e4. Black plays d5, completely shutting that down. But that allows bishop to b5 here, which would have been very unpleasant for black. The point being, white wants to make this trade and then go something like rook h6, rook h1. But even then, like, you can play knight b3 and just plant your knight over here. And actually, you have plenty of compensation. So instead of that, white does this and just kind of continues in this way of trying to get down the h-file. But that was the only chance that Alice gave, really. And now she's beginning to consolidate. She's going to win the pawn on g5. And even though she loses this one, she's still just a pawn up. Like, she has 5 of them. Now she has to get out of this very passive position. Bishop takes b7 played, but now a beautiful deflection move, knight to d7. Very simple. Knight is hanging, bishop is hanging, take, take. Rook is hanging, bishop is hanging. Rook goes to a6. Why not b4? a5, rook b6, and I think bishop c8 was missed. Same thing about like rook b3. There's a couple of ways to do this, but you can just play bishop c6. So Nazi misses this this kind of sequence, and now it's just down a piece, and, well, the game speaks for itself. Black will slowly win all the pawns. White has a couple of chances to make queens. It gets very close. But unfortunately, black is queening first, which means the attack is going to be much more vicious. Queens get swapped, and that's it. You're just not going to be able to save this game. Bishop d3 check will be the nail in the coffin, as white will lose the pawn and then get the king completely cut off. And that's going to be very brutal. So Alice Lee wins again, by the way. Let it be known. She has won a lot of games in this tournament. And she's doing extremely well. And she's 13 as of today, which is wild. I mean, she is by far the youngest player in the event, and she is having a spectacular event. She is a point out of first place, sitting alone there, but it's very close. It's very, very close. But I gotta show you this game, because one of these two individuals is on the thumbnail of today's video, and once you see the conclusion of this game, you're gonna know who that is. So we have a Sveshnikov Sicilian, a very theoretical line, a favorite of Magnus Carlsen. This has been played many times, including in the World Championship match, Carlsen-Caruana. Very, very sharp line where black basically tries to launch these pawns forward and attack white. White tries to bully the black position a little bit, but playing a5, like obscure, restricting kind of moves. And I think here black messed up, like as far as I understand, because the engine is trying to tell me that, like, you know, you should do this, and apparently you cannot take on d6 in this position because of queen c7. So the computer wants this, and then f5, knight c4, and then queen c7. Black allows the d6 pawn to be captured, and then plays here. So, I mean, maybe this is all theory. I don't know. Like, maybe literally all of this is theory. b5, like, I might be wrong. This might all be theory. b3, look at this. e3, sacrificing come on. It's a completely insane game. f3, all right? And then here, the top computer move is knight takes d5. So, honestly, Ashrita might have just been in prep. Knight takes d5 is ridiculous, with the intention after queen d5 to play queen f6. And if you stop me from going to c3, that's great. I go to b2 and, oh my god. And if you play c takes d5, check, right? Can't go here because of this. You block. Then I hit you from the other side of the board. And then apparently I play rook c3, and black is completely winning. There is apparently just nothing to do here. Ridiculous. Which goes to show you the Sveshnikov's true power. It's a ridiculous opening with tons of powerful attacks. But the way that Ashrita does this, see how she delicately walks in with her queen like this? That's too slow. And now after g3, white is just going to get her king to g2. I mean, Megan Lee's just going to play king g2 and queen d3 and bring the rooks. And let's not forget that black sacrificed the pawn a long time ago. Now black plays knight e4. What? Hold on. What about this? Yes. Black did not try to submit a game to guess the elo. That was not the idea there. The idea was probably a bit of frustration with not finding the way forward, right? So probably black realized that there was a better way forward here, just didn't calculate it correctly, and then decided to sacrifice a piece to play the move f5, to try to use the f-file to open like this. Now, if white plays the move e5 here to try to keep the position closed, black will play f4, but it's still winning. It's still winning. So I'm not exactly sure what black missed. Because after king to g2, there's no attack. I mean, I think black just, I don't know, had like a complete oversight. Like black did not hang a knight in one move. But maybe black thought that there was queen f6. I don't know, but even king g2 and queen f2 and king h3 is completely winning. Like, just so you understand. Like, there's no way to win here with black. Because rook f1 is coming. So, yeah, I mean, the game went from bad to worse. Like, black inaccurately handled the attack and then just sacked the knight for nothing. I mean, speculative potential attack, but white just plays defense. Queen b1, cold-blooded move. Rook a2 covering the second rank. And black kept attacking, but unfortunately just ran out of firepower. Rook f2, queen e2, there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing you can do here. And Megan Lee consolidates, picks up a couple of pawns. And by couple of pawns, I mean literally all the pawns. Trades the queens. Black resigns. And after 8 rounds of action, she is now winning the US Women's Championship with 6 points out of 8. She's in first place. So if it ended right now, she would be the champion. Now, behind her are Irina Krush and Jennifer Yu, half a point away. And then it's Alice Lee, 13 years old. Crazy stuff. Crazy, crazy event. Now, let me take you to the Hans Niemann game versus Levon Aronian. Levon having a tough event. He is tied for second to last with Hans Niemann. And then it's Alshan Moradiabadi, which is wild. Now, this game got off to a really wild start because it was a fried liver. Now here, Hans broke my heart, did not play a Traxler. I mean, that would have been so sick. Because then I would have been like, you guys should go to chessly.com and check out the Traxler. It's my Black Gambits repertoire. By the way, side note, I want you to tell me in the comments, all right? How many of you realize that Chessly offers a free sample of a full chapter of content to all of my courses? A lot of you don't realize this. A lot of you hear me say courses, this, oh, you have courses, where are they? The new website that we built has a full free sample chapter on the Traxler, by the way. The first chapter of my Black Gambits repertoire is fully on the Traxler. Video, study that you can play through, drills. We're adding quizzes soon. It's going to be so sick. If you haven't checked it out yet, you're really missing out. I'm just saying. You're really missing out. And, you know, we're going to have sales in the future if the price is a little too steep. But I'm just telling y'all. Just telling y'all. Anyway, these two guys play a bunch of theory. This is all theory. This has all been played a bunch of times. Yeah, including this pawn capture, but this doubling of the pawns. But here, Levon plays a idea that's almost never been played. Knight e4 has been played many times here, as well as rook e1. Levon plays b3 with the idea to get the bishop out. And after c5, he does exactly that. And by move 15-16, they had left known territory. So essentially, white is up a pawn. Black's pieces are sort of scattered, and maybe the two center pawns could be targets. But overall, white does not have that great of a position. And Levon realized that really quickly because Hans just backed up some of his pieces. And white has no play at all. Like, at all. Like, at all. I mean, he trades pieces, and black is about to just start raining haymakers. This is actually nuts. This structure is terrible for white. And you can't move forward at all. So, rook c3, g6. And, I mean, Hans just gets like a fully solid position. And, I mean, you'd think Hans might be playing this for a win. Levon tries to attack a little bit. I mean, his rook is just drunkenly stumbling over King's Landing, you know? Rook e3 back, queen c6. What is white doing, right? Look at this, rook e4. Now white is trying to instigate with the pawns. All right, defense. All right, Levon trying to... And now this is a nice idea. d4. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Hans got a little careless. If e d4, there's rook d4. But there's nothing. I mean, if c d4, queen c8, that would have been something. But we have a mass exchange, and it's just going to be an endgame where white is a pawn up, but black has a lot of activity. And then it very quickly becomes an endgame of opposite colored bishops. And then it very quickly becomes an endgame of no rooks. And then they make a draw. So the Hans Niemann game today was relatively effortless from Hans. Very convincing game, honestly. He had very good preparation with black. Showed absolutely no signs of weakness. But yeah, I mean, Levon really, really struggling. I mean, Levon is down to something like 27-30, which might be his lowest rating in like... I mean, I don't know. Can someone in the comments tell me when the last time Levon was 27-30 or 27, like high 30s, low 40s? It's just wild, wild stuff. So hope to see him bounce back. Two more epic games for you. We have Christopher Wu Jinyu versus Jeffrey Xiong. This one, oh, Jeffrey, a man after my own heart, playing the Carl Khan defense, available at WW. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that again. Although, seriously, great course. Probably my highest level course. All right, fantasy variation from Christopher Yu. The reason this is called the fantasy is because you want to go here, here, and then 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 you have a fantasy to do all that. Now, black is going to try to, you know, turn that into a dark, twisted fantasy, and takes, and then plays this move e5. Very aggressive move. The point of e5 is that if white were to capture this free pawn, black would go bishop c5, and actually white is in some serious trouble. It's a very sharp line here. There's a line bishop c4, bishop g1, queen f3, you attack this. Black can go here, bishop e6, fe6. I think white plays, yeah, knight e2. Bishop goes back to, if the bishop were to retreat back to c5, then there is rook f1, and this attack is super strong. Yeah, this is a real line. But yeah, that doesn't happen. Instead of that, Jeffrey plays a novelty. So we have this position, and Jeffrey, rather than trading queens with Christopher, plays bishop e6, which has never been played before. And he's like, yeah, take my queen so I can open up my rook. Now, Chris is like, I'm not going to do that, okay? And then Chris, not only that, Chris gallops in with his bishop. He's like, haha, you can't move, because if you do, well, peasant, you will now no longer be able to castle. Now, here, he could have also played queen g7. And after queen b2, he could have played rook b1. And then after queen a3, he could have played rook takes b7, but he chose not to do this. Queen c2, of course, is also a possibility. But then apparently queen d4 is very strong. Just showing you what scumbag computer wanted here. Christopher Yu is not a scumbag computer. He is a human. And, you know, he played a lot of decent moves. Position was very much balanced. Black had a decent position. White had a decent position. Kind of everybody was happy. Totally symmetrical. 3-3, dead equal. Black plays knight to b6. And then here, Chris begins kind of breaking some protocols. So when you have a rook staring at the other, you really don't want to be the one taking and granting a file, unless you have a very good reason to do so. So for example, instead of that, you can play rook e1, keeping the tension. You can play f6, and after g6, you can figure out something. Maybe knight back to d2. I don't know, some move. Well, Chris goes here, okay, and then does this. And here, Chris plays something weird. Now, it's already weird, by the way, because rook h2 is on the way, which already seems problematic, but Christopher plays c4. So for the second time in today's recap, a person moves something to a square that can literally just be taken. Now, Christopher obviously has an idea. His idea is knight c5 to try to play rook d7, and after this, to play rook e1, rook e7. But the problem is, there's just rook e8. And I'm not exactly sure what he missed, because he's just down a pawn. And the worst part about this is, white has no way to get here. Because if white goes knight back to d3, black will go here, stopping knight e5, and then very slowly win the other pawns. So white is just down a full pawn in a knight endgame, which otherwise could be drawable, but not if you lose g5, and then definitely not if you are down 2 pawns. And Jeffrey just wins another pawn, and we play a little bit longer, and white resigns. And what happened? I mean, of course there was some sort of miscalculation, but how did we go from here? Right? Like, total symmetry, 4 pieces each, to here. I guess that's just sort of, I don't know, like chess is a really hard game. Like, sometimes you have an oversight and that just sort of leads to the absolute demolition of your entire position, I suppose. I'm no stranger to such an emotion and to experiencing such things. Yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, chess can be brutal. The last game that I have for you is between Ray Robson and Xiong Moradiabadi. Obviously, both guys having different kinds of events. Ray's competing for first. Xiong trying to stop the bleeding. Ray plays a Berlin. Now, I don't know what Ray was going to play after castles. Was he trying to draw or what? But Xiong plays a very combative line. A line where black has to play against an anti-Berlin setup. We have castles by white. And then Ray just doesn't castle. Ray with black plays a lot of very provocative moves here. Like, he's like, oh yeah, you're going to hit me with d4? Why don't you do it? All right? Xiong's like, no, I'm going to hit you with a4, a5. Ray's like, all right, hit me with a5. Let's go. Xiong's like, all right, I'm going to hit you with b4. Ray's like, I'm good. Rook d8. So now, if b5 and the bishop goes back, right, the queen side's a bit frozen. Now, a5 is not quite possible because of this, but what is white going to do? Queen b3 to line up the knight and potentially over here. Black blocks that. White plays g3, stopping anything from getting to f4. Now black plays a5. So now a very tough spot for white. Do you take en passant or do you not? Now, if you do, black might get a very active bishop. If you don't, your queenside prospects are completely dead, and black might totally flip the game around on you. Now, Xiong does in fact take. And then plays a5 and is like, well, Ray, your bishop is stupid. I win this little battle. But then Ray's like, I'm going to castle, okay? And now I'm going to move my king off center. And the reason that you play a move like king to h8 is to move the king off of any vulnerable diagonal and off of the g-file, because you are ready now to begin very nasty and active operations. Queen to h5 attacks the knight. d5 counterattacks the knight for black. And knight f4 arrives on the shores of white's position. This knight is hanging. And if you go here, I have g5. But it doesn't matter which knight you move to h4, because g5 is on the way. And you would think that after gf4, gh4, white's king would be safe. But white's king is not safe. You can go e takes f4, followed by rook to g8. Alshan, it really doesn't matter where he moves, because if he goes to h1, remember that bishop that you locked away a really long time ago on a6? Remember how a long time ago you played the move a5, forced your opponent to mummify his own bishop, and you went, your bishop is a joke? Well, that bishop is certainly a joke, because look who's laughing now. b4. And you are just getting haymakered from the other side of the board. If this, then queen f3 leads to mate in a few moves. So Alshan runs this way. But I gotta tell you, you can plug the hole on that side of the board. It's not gonna stop the bleeding. At some point, that bishop is going to reactivate. And even if you plug the c-pawn moving completely, I will play queen g4. And the empire of white's position is collapsing from two sides, which means it is now unsustainable. The king runs to the center of the board and all the pieces cover the king, but it's too little too late, as black refuses exchanges and continues opening the windows and firing cannons on all three sides. It literally cannot get any worse than this. You are being attacked on the queen side, you are being attacked on the king side, and you are being attacked straight down the middle. And Ray Robson executes this attack like a chef in a kitchen making a dish for the 1000th time, as he delivers the kiss of death, rook to b2, attacking white's knight, and the knight really has nowhere to go, because the alternative would be for the white king to perish. And on that note, Alshan Moradiabadi resigned, and Ray Robson won another game of chess. He is now half a point away from being in first place in the United States Chess Championship. He is also building upon his 2700 rating. We are watching two dark horses emerge in these later rounds of the United States Chess Championships, and I eagerly await the remaining 5 rounds of action, as we will then crown new chess champion. Did you enjoy that? I'll see you in the next video. Get out of here.